Bigger language spaces have more pollution because more actors and they're easier to access. Engage civic society. Support the fact-checking entities that have been established. If not, go establish. Social distancing is everybody's responsibility. Digital hygiene enforcement is also everybody's responsibility. I think everybody has, in last weeks or even months, seen a drastic increase in a mis and disinformation regarding the coronavirus and COVID-19. We, as a center that has been looking at the disinformation and researching this phenomenon for years now, have also concentrated and tried to understand the current situation. And our assessment currently is that first, there has been big spike of disinformation in the information environment. There are all actors that we know have played previously a role in disinformation campaigns are now active. You see both for-profit groups that are trying to use this emotional background on the virus to gain profit, both by creating false images, false ideas, false trends, as well as to actually gain access to individual data systems and computer files, and etc., for typical cyber fraud. We see different groups that have been very active in disseminating anti-government propaganda, try to use this also to create these disinformation and misinformation pieces about what COVID is, what it is not. And that, of course, additionally crowds the space. And there are clearly state-driven actions, notably by China and Russia in the information space, where they are trying both to shift the blame for China of the origin of a virus and peddling a lot of conspiracy theories, including that it is US-based biological weapon, and supporting the spread of some conspiracy theories, many contradicting each other. And secondly, exposing the how bad West has been in general to cope with a problem related to how good these governments have been. So we've seen also what is interesting, the exploitation of prior used disinformation actors. The ecosystem is still the same. It's still the same robotic networks. It's still the same information laundering houses that are being used, but at a higher level and by more actors. And of course, what we see, it's global. Even China or Russia, their own information spaces are not immune to this types of disinformation. But the general conclusion is that the spaces that have, prior to COVID-19, an issue with being able to tackle with disinformation campaigns are struggling even more so now. And the ones that have been comparatively better equipped have been doing better. Key feature here is how much society buys into that struggle against disinformation and misinformation. And that also broadly goes back to the lessons learned we did prior to this outbreak, is that if you do not get the society buying in, it is a very difficult fight. So we've seen across nations where society has taken proactive stance and trying to actually confront this disinformation posts, accounts, etc., expose them, have been much better, and the campaigns are not as successful. The other interesting feature is that the bigger language spaces have more pollution because more actors and they're easier to access. So our advice at this point in time is that engage civic society, support the fact-checking entities that have been established. If not, go establish. Third, make sure that the proper expert advice is heard. And that also goes in line with a civic society. Make sure that you amplify the real expertise and you are not pushing with the fake expertise, and employ critical thinking, employ source checking, employ data cross-relating. And that is not something that you can delegate to somebody else. That is everybody's responsibility. It's like social distancing is everybody's responsibility. Digital hygiene enforcement is also everybody's responsibility, because we can only win these viruses if we are together, if we stick to our values, if we keep cool heads, and we are together.